This will somehow end up on Weaver Beats. What's going on today, guys? Master Drama here, and today we'll be talking about the MPC XSE drama. I know, more drama in the MPC community. Who would have thought? It hasn't even been in a year since MPC Gate, and already there's more of it. And would you believe AVE is involved in it again? Yeah, I know, I'm shocked too. Okay, so what is the MPC XSE, you may ask? The MPC XSE is a special edition of the MPC X. It's like the MPC X in every single way, except it has 4 GB of RAM instead of 2. It also has 48 GB of hard drive space instead of 16, and it also has a retro colorway. That is literally the only difference between it and the MPC X. Now, does that justify an extra $800? I don't know. It couldn't be me. It couldn't be me buying this. Now, the original MPC X came out in 2017, and it's been 6 years since then. And for these to be the only changes in that amount of time, I could see why some people might be upset. Now, it's not just one person upset. It seems like a wide variety of people are upset here. Now, from what I can gather, there are quite a few complaints other than the main one I'm going to focus on today. I'm going to start with those first to get it out of the way. One complaint I see being brought up is a lack of linear arrangement, which, I mean, if it's a special edition of the MPC X, I mean, I could see why they didn't change that, but you know, I think people were expecting a new MPC at this point. Linear arrangement is how most DAWs arrange. The way you usually arrange on an MPC is you make smaller sequences and then you put those together in the song mode. And personally, it's actually shocking to me at this point in 2023, there's still no linear arrangement in an MPC. But anyways, that's not the main point of today's video. We're gonna get into the juicy stuff now. From what I can determine, the entire drama starts from one video made by EASKI. Some of you guys may be saying, EASKI, that name sounds kind of familiar. Where have I heard that name before? He's a producer. He's actually a pretty prolific producer. So EASKI has been producing for quite some time. He's been producing probably since before the 90s, but the earliest information I can find on him producing is in the 90s. He was on Master P's label. He worked with Ice Cube. He's worked with Tech Nine, Too Short. Worked with a whole bunch of hyphy artists. Basically, he's done a lot of West Coast production. You've probably heard lots of his beats without even knowing it. Now, in this video, he talks about how Akai is just selling the same product with like a new paint job. Like they're not really changing anything about it. Now, they may have improved the workflow, but they have not improved the sound of it. It doesn't sound anything like the old MPCs. It doesn't have that vintage sound. And they've continued to do this for quite some time now. And I do agree at this point, Akai is definitely milking its customers. They're not really interested in innovation anymore, or even doing things that are better for the customers. They just want to make more money. I mean, case in point, they did that Beat Club MPC not too long before this. And literally Timbaland had said, this is one of one, like literally a month before that. And then all of a sudden we got like 500 to sell or whatever. I don't remember. They kept changing the number essentially. If that doesn't say milking your customers, I don't know what will. Running a business is a balancing act. You want to provide innovation or value to your customers in some way. That way they feel comfortable giving you money and not like they got ripped off. If you're constantly just doing the bare minimum, some people might buy it, but a lot of your other customers are not going to be happy about it. Basically though, this video came down to him saying that Akai hasn't really done anything in terms of the sound in a long time, and the sound is what's important. Now, the theory is that it's due to the converters on the old MPCs. They just made the sounds hit harder. I'm gonna provide a little bit of comparisons a little bit later in this video, so you guys can hear that as well too. I do think EASKI does bring up a valid point here. Personally, at least in my opinion, I do not think it's to the extent that he makes it out to be. If you're someone going for more clean types of music, like you probably would want a more transparent conversion. Some people may also want to be able to control their processing a bit more, but I could see where he's coming from with this. It's possible that they could just add like a 4K circuit, some sort of circuit conversion where it makes it sound vintage, right? The audio interface I use right now has a 4K conversion circuit on it, and it makes it sound more vintage. I could even test it on and off right now. This is with it on. This is with it off. Probably a subtle difference, but if it's that simple to implement on a $300 interface, I don't see why they can't implement it on an MPC, especially when it costs $2,500. Now, I'm not here to defend Akai. I'm here to provide a nuanced point of view because I feel like this drama has really turned into a clown show. Really, at the end of the day, this is just about MPC conversion. It's worth mentioning that you also can buy modifications for your MPC, though, if you want to, giving you that sound. But the argument is that you shouldn't have to do that, or you shouldn't have to mix with outboard gear, etc., if you want to get that sound. I can definitely tell you, though, a modern electronic producer would not be as interested in this vintage sort of sound that you get through an MPC, but that begs the question, how many electronic producers would like to use an MPC? So it really depends who they're marketing it to, I guess. Now, one thing that Ski says in this video that I do think could use a little bit of adjustment here is that it's all good that people are getting free goods and they don't want to speak up about it. People should speak up about this if they notice something about it and they want to keep their mouth shut because they want to get free goods. Like, they're part of the problem realistically if they're not saying anything about it. The more people that complain about something, the more likely the company is going to have to do something about it. We've seen it time and time again on this channel, or just in general in the music production community. You complain, they fucking fix shit. It works. I mean, do I need to name it here? Waves, Bitwig. Is that it? There's gotta be more than that. Well, we bitched about the Subpack thing, but you know, I don't think that's ever gonna ship. Honestly, I think Subpack is gonna go under before they ship out the Subpack CO to people. That's just my personal opinion. But anyways, the more honest you are with your opinion, the less likely you are to get free gear and software. So keep that in mind when you're watching people review, especially gear. Like, I feel like software, like, people are a little more likely to keep an open mind and say what they should be saying. But with gear, they're not gonna give you the raw at all, dude. It's gonna be through like layers of filtering. They might not even say anything bad about it, even though there is bad things about it. That's not to say that people reviewing gear will not be honest with their opinions, but you definitely need to be even more wary than usual. The reason why people are upset about this specific MPC is because they've been releasing products for a while now. I think it's more of a breaking point versus people thinking this specific MPC was going to be the one that changes everything. I don't think people want exactly the old MPC. If they did, they would just buy the old MPC. Okay, so we've heard a lot about the sound now. Let's talk about the sound. Now, one thing I wish that EA Ski did in his video was give literal objective comparisons between the sounds of the different MPCs. I think people would have been more on board with what he was saying if he had sound comparisons. It proves your point more if you have objective comparisons. Now, the MPC Live is not the exact machine we're talking about today, but this was a really good comparison I found, and MPC Live has that modern sound and the MPC 3000 has that vintage sound. I do think it's worth noting that this is being run through YouTube, so maybe we're not hearing it to the quality that we should be hearing it, but it's also worth saying that this is how people would be hearing the music as well. So it's worth noting he has the same beat on both machines. They should be about the same level. I actually checked it. It's not exactly the same level. I adjusted the volumes to be the exact same peak level in post. I think it is a bit more noticeable when you're just listening to just the drums. So I definitely hear some slight differences in the timbre, especially the snare. I think the snare is where I definitely noticed it the most. So one thing I did do after this though, is I took it into Ableton and I analyzed what was happening with the two drum loops. Now, first thing we're gonna do before we change anything is look at the peak volume. Okay, so right out the gate, I noticed MPC Live version is louder. One thing I do notice is it does have more dynamic range. You could just see it by looking at it here. Everything looks a bit closer together in the MPC 3000 version. Now, is this due to human error or is it due to something with the MPC 3000? Not 100% sure. There's no way to completely draw that conclusion here. The volume of the hi-hat is definitely closer to the volume of the kick and the snare. The kick and the snare volumes are closer together as well too. There's definitely more peaks with the MPC Live version. If I had to guess why, I'm guessing it's a cleaner version of the signal. Now, I think if we solo the snare, I think that's where we hear the biggest difference here. I definitely hear more saturation or something here. It has more crunch and punch to it for sure. Either way, one thing I do want to say is all this vintage shit, it's not going to make a difference if you have clicking in all of your drums, like in the example we just showed. Vintage or not, it's not going to fix that. Now I'm going to show a few more comparisons before we move on to the rest of the story. So Bolo did a comparison between the MPC X SE as well as the MPC 2500. And I kind of wonder if something went wrong because the transients seem like they're squashed on the 808 here. And the reason why I say that is because I found another comparison where the same thing does not happen. But let's take a look at his comparison here really quickly.
The MPC 2500 was more dynamic. It felt like the signal didn't have anything interfering with it, okay? So you can actually look at the waveform and see how the kick and the snare.
Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be like that. Either something went wrong or there is a maximizer or something on that master output. So as you can hear, it's a very subtle difference there. The XSE does sound less dynamic. You're not getting as much of the punch because it's getting squashed. I'm really curious if something went wrong in this comparison here, because I have another comparison. The dynamics are still preserved in this version with the XSE. Now, I'm not trying to say that you don't get that vintage sound with one of the older MPCs, because I still do believe that, but I do think it doesn't do anything to the dynamics. I actually downloaded the audio that this guy provided in this comparison here and pulled it into my DAW. And we're just gonna look at the waveform since we already heard it. The top is the MPC XSE and the bottom is the MPC 4000. Now, as you can see, they look pretty similar here. The dynamics still look preserved in the XSE version. That's the case for both of these instances of audio here. They look nearly identical. I mean, I do see some slight differences, like the MPC X looks a little bit louder on the hi-hat here, I guess. But the transients are not squashed. I don't know exactly what went wrong here. I'm not sure if there was maybe a maximizer or something on Bolo's version, or you know, maybe this guy's not even telling the truth, but I think he is, because like in the video you can see everything. Just want to point out that it's worth getting multiple comparisons here, because it seems like there's no clear conclusions to be made about the dynamics, at least. But I do still think that the older versions definitely have a more vintage sound. Now, believe it or not, this is not where this drama ended. It continued quite a bit further, and we'll see if I can fit it all into one video. So next we're going to talk about Roger LINN. You may be asking, who is Roger LINN? Roger LINN collaborated with Akai to create the MPC 60 in 1988. His aim was to create an affordable machine that didn't require extensive music or equipment knowledge in order to use. And as you may know, the MPC has an extensive influence on music culture and still continues to this day. The story isn't all great though. In the early 2000s, Akai was bought by IN Music, who also owns Newmark, Alesis, as well as quite a few other companies. And after that, Roger LINN's royalties on the MPC were completely halted, and he was threatened by lawyers, and he basically did not pursue it any further after that. Now, why is this important, you may ask? Roger LINN was what made the older MPCs great. After he was outed from Akai, coincidentally, that is when the sound started going downhill. EA Ski has a video talking about this, as well as ranting about a few other things, as well as Akai shifting the narrative away from sound to workflow. I honestly believe EA Ski has everyone's best interest here in mind, because he has the gear to run his MPC into. If anything, he's the one that needs this the least. Ski posted another video about this after, talking about how Andy Mack, the creative A&R director for Akai, had blocked him following his other two videos. From what he describes though, they have a personal relationship. Andy Mack even played Talkbox on one of his songs in the past after asking Ski to let him do so. If we're taking EA Ski at face value here though, that's a pretty petty reason to block someone. So IAMSIGHT has a podcast named Dad Beats, and in one of the episodes he talked about this controversy with the MPC. The entire episode wasn't about it, but some parts of it were. This episode was taken down for some reason though. I was able to watch it through Viral Beats' reaction to it. Go subscribe to him if you haven't. So I do think Sight made a few good points in this podcast. I can't remember exactly what MPC he referenced in his podcast, but the MPC 60 adjusted for inflation would cost almost $13,000 nowadays versus what it would cost in 1988, which was $5,000. It's also worth keeping in mind though, as technology progresses, it gets cheaper because it becomes easier to mass produce. But he also did make some points that might be incorrect, such as that EA Ski was harassing Andy Mack and that's why he was blocked. And I don't know if you could personally qualify what EA Ski was doing to Andy Mack as harassment. I feel like harassment is a very subjective term though. What someone calls a few comments about someone might be considered harassment to another person. I personally feel like harassment is a lot more than that. Now, why am I bringing this up, you may ask? It led to even more videos and live streams. Who would have thought? Honestly, my theory with this whole thing is that since the MPC community is so inwardly focused, anytime something like this happens, it causes a feedback loop where things continue to spiral. So following this, there was a live stream discussion between EA Ski and Sight. Basically, EA Ski wanted to confront him on a few things he said that he got wrong. Again, this stream was also privated, not sure exactly why. The first thing Ski brought up was that he was not blocked by Andy Mack for bringing up converters or harassing him. Ski claims it was purely due to the idea that he went against what Akai is promoting. Ski says he's had these conversations with Akai for years and years now. This is not something that just popped up out of thin air. It may seem that way though to people just finding out about it through this YouTube video. IAMSIGHT also said some pretty strange things in this podcast. He said that Ski should make videos helping the community before he speaks on what Akai is doing wrong, and I don't really understand the correlation there. That makes like no sense to me. In fact, I would say he's actually helping people by calling out this thing about the sound. I mean, criticism is a valuable thing. I don't know why people act like criticism is the worst thing in the world. Now, you won't believe what happens next. This drama is like a 3-part fantasy series, except the fantasy is about converters in a groove box. Now, AVE MCREE live streamed like he always does, you know, making beats, talking smack. Except there's a lot more emphasis on the talking smack on this one. At some point, one of the people in the chat brings up this whole EA ski MPC sound debate, and he just lets it fly, man. Talking about how there's plenty of evidence to dispute that.
The whole sound argument, I thought it's hilarious, especially just given the fact that there's so much information on the internet that would prove a lot of the bullshit wrong.
I already showed you earlier in the video that there's clearly a difference between the sound of the 2 different NPCs. So we know that there's definitely a difference. This is a big difference though. It's up to you guys. Shortly after this, Ski pops into the chat. I don't know how he does it, man. There must be some sort of EA ski signal, kind of like a bat signal. Now, Av said,
it's much more of a distraction than it is help. You're not helping.
Now, personally, I do believe making a big commotion about this actually could help. It's stirring up a lot of controversy with the NPC, and it may force Akai to actually do something about it because people will be commenting about it. When people look up the MPC XSE, they're gonna see this. So I do think in the long run, it will help towards that. Now, I don't think everything involved in this controversy is good, but I do think quite a few parts of it are good because it helps get the word out about the sound issue. So from a greater perspective, it's good. And Av kind of veers off in a weird direction here.
You wouldn't have did this. You need to be honest with yourself. You wouldn't have did that if you would have got an MPC XSE. You would not have said anything about that.
Also stating that Ski is being disingenuous as hell. While it is true that some people are going to take the product and just behave for the company, you don't know that he would do that. In fact, not all people do that. Another thing that's strange, she points out that this is the first time Ski ever popped into a stream ever.
Also, I want people to know, this is his first time ever swimming in on here. You have never swimmed in on any of my videos or anything that I've done ever. I've never seen you. I've never seen you over here. So for me, to see you over here right now, just guarantees that you're out here just trying to start shit.
I feel like you don't get to make this complaint when you were talking about the arguments he was making in his video. He should be allowed to defend against what you are saying, especially when you are on a bigger platform. Then it goes off into an even weirder direction where Av starts saying that complaining about the NPC is not a good look for Black content creators, and because of that, other companies are not going to give them opportunities to review their products.
You're not helping you're not helping it as you are stirring up more shit, and opportunities get destroyed. Cause I don't know if you know, I want you to type in Roland S1 Aria, the Aria S1. See how many Black content creators got that. I want you to type in Atria Micro Freak and see how many Black content creators have done anything on that. I want you to see that. I want you to type in Korg and see how many Black content creators have reviewed Korg. And when they go and see your video, and just because you think, because you're doing a service to Akai, you're not doing a service to anybody that looks like us either. You're ruining more opportunities because you want to act an ass because you didn't get a MPC XSE.
And honestly, this is just confusing the shit out of me at this point. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know. Is that true? I don't fucking know. I personally don't think things work this binary in reality when it comes to companies sending out gear and software to content creators. But for the sake of argument, let's assume that this is true. That doesn't mean that you should be less honest with your opinions in reviews or commentary. Getting gear is not more important than showing the faults of something to your audience. He also states that what Ski is doing is childish, yet I feel like this rant is really childish, if we could be honest here. Quite a few people in Av's chat during this live stream were really upset. I'm sorry, Av. I know you aren't going to think I'm a national treasure anymore after I put down this video. I'm sorry, man. I got to give people the truth, man. I personally just don't understand the leap in logic Av is making about how he's mad because he didn't get an NPC. Like, clearly this dude has a lot of gear. Look behind him. He has a lot of gear. He has money for gear. He talks about how he runs his shit into a board. He has money. Buying the NPC is not a big deal for him. And if he doesn't like it, he could sell it. Like, I think it's more so about the actual product than about Akai. All I'm saying, guys, once I pull up in that free mode, you're not even gonna recognize me anymore. I'm gonna switch up so hard. Believe it or not, even more shit happens in this stream though. This isn't the end of it. Somehow this is not the end of it. So one of the moderators on AVE MCREE's stream has a YouTube channel. His name is Viral Beats. Him and Av go way back. I don't even know how far back. Essentially, he popped into EA Ski's stream and he made a comment. The race card is something extra. He pulled that card with Ben Jordan. I don't know if race card is the right word, but he brought race into something that didn't need race to be brought into it. Now, I guess that could be debatable, but bringing it into everything does a disservice to everybody. It only serves to detract from the conversation when it's not appropriate. Now, some of AVE's subscribers are funny as fuck. I'm not sure if it's intentional, but let's take a look at it here. So somebody named Chad Taylor, yes, a guy with 2 first names, said that he reported viral beats for harassment and child abuse over that comment I just talked about. That's all that happened. He got unmodded, he got reported for harassment and child abuse. Not sure how. Now, I would like to think this guy's joking, but from his later comments, I'm starting to think he's serious. Either way, it's either hilarious or completely psycho. Okay, let's update this meme here really quick. Then AVE makes an insane theory.
There's been a lot of funny stuff that's been happening on my channel, and I would not be surprised if he was behind a lot of that shit and that he likes to go in between and start shit.
You know what? You're right, AVE. It definitely couldn't have been a result of your own actions. I'm assuming he means like hate comments he's been getting. I'm not sure what else has been going on, but if I had to guess something like that, I'm guessing he thinks he's making alt accounts or something, which is a really unfair thing to pin on viral over that one comment he made in someone else's live stream. Then AVE is quoted as saying,
"How do you pull a race card on another black person?"
Which I get what he's saying, which is why I think saying race card is not the right thing here. Like, bringing race into it is a more appropriate way to put it. While they are very similar, it's not quite exactly the same thing. Yeah, it beats me. I don't know how the story keeps going either. I had to stay up all night documenting all this shit. Like, can everyone just stop? Can we put a stop to MPC Gate 2? Because this is going way too far. I'm running out of space on my Google Drive. But he followed it up with a video saying, "Are content creators truthful?" And it has this great picture of AVE in the thumbnail. One of the main points he makes in this video is that content creators need to have more integrity. They shouldn't just sell out for product, which I 100% agree with. Whether it's software or hardware, people need to stick to their opinions regardless of whatever you're getting. Whether you're getting paid for something, whether you're getting something for free, you can't let them buy out your opinions just based on that. It's not fair to your audience. And honestly, if it changes how you operate on your channel, then you should not be taking sponsorships or getting free product. Now, one of my favorite things about this video is he calls AVE MCREE AVE. Like he says MCREE AVE as if he's a street name.
MCREE AVE.
Basically in this video, Ski calls AVE corny, which, you know, everyone has their own perception of things. I don't personally see him that way, but I can see why somebody would call anybody on YouTube corny. I feel like YouTube in general can be a very corny venture. Some people might say I'm corny for this video, but I don't know who else is going to document this thing from start to finish. So, you know, take it or leave it. But he also goes on to say it's a great thing because it means that if he can do it, anybody can do it, which is such a backhanded compliment. It really makes me laugh. He also says after this, we can't trust anything that AVE says anymore.
Because now we can't trust nothing you say no more, homie.
I do get the point he's making here. Honestly, Ski is talking to AVE as if he's a disappointed dad here. Ski offers AVE to do a live stream with him and talk it out.
Because, man, we can do this on any platform you want to do this on, man. For real, man. Any of these dudes at a car, we can get on a split screen and start talking, and I'll run it down, and I guarantee you they won't have nothing to say.
And I agree with that. And then, of course, AVE has a response video. I'm not sure how I feel about this video because I feel like he didn't address any of the real issues here. He pretty much just apologized for not being as informative with his original MPC XSE video. There was information he left out that he could have put in there. I did not hear a direct apology to him for saying that he's mad he didn't get one for free. He didn't apologize for viral beats for putting him on blast. Then following this, Dame Taylor gets EA Ski to come on his live stream and talk about the apology.
Actually, your boy AVE called me. I told him.
He did not seem happy.
I told that nigga, you got 24-hour turnaround period, homie. I said, that apology's bullshit, bro. I said, I'm not playing with you, bro.
And then it finally happened. No, the NPCs did not get new converters. We got the much better apology.
I had an important conversation with EA Ski on Saturday. I wanted to hear people out. You know, I hear both sides of the story, and I'm not going to indulge in it because the most important part is accountability and just holding myself accountable for, you know, the ongoing nonsense that I brought on myself.
AVE stated that he didn't know who he was and he should have done much better research before involving himself.
As someone that does a lot of research, I didn't research who he was beforehand, and I got a high level of respect for what he's done in music. That's never going to change. Even if we don't agree on certain things, we can agree to disagree.
This part kind of confused me a bit.
At a certain level, guys, when you're on YouTube, it might be hot to do a lot of controversial content or whatnot, but there's a level that YouTube gets involved, it becomes problematic, especially if you're being monetized and stuff like that. YouTube does not want this type of content on here. Even though it works very well, and there's a thin line between that. Once it starts crossing the line and people are going back and forth and all that, YouTube steps in.
As far as I know, I think he's referring to the anti-harassment policy in the YouTube terms of service. I don't think they step in though unless it's for very, very large channels or people are reporting them. I might be wrong though. This part is actually pretty wholesome.
Influence isn't about you getting shiny shit and talking about it and so forth. Influence is being impactful in people's lives. That's the way I look at my influence, okay? I can't speak for everybody else, but that's the level of influence that I'm on.
Overall, I think it wasn't a bad apology. He did make some great points. He also went on a few tangents, though. I would maybe give it a 7 out of 10. Honestly, no one really deserves any hate in this situation. I mean, people made mistakes. They apologized for it. They owned up to them. It's just a matter of acknowledging it. I know people are most likely to hate on AVE in this situation, but I mean, he owned up to his mistakes. He took full accountability, and I think that's pretty admirable. It's pretty hard to admit you're wrong when you're really, really wrong. Will there be an MPC Gate 3? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like it happens every year at this point. Honestly, I've been intending to put this video together for several days now, maybe even 4 or 5. It keeps progressing though, so I'm just putting it out at this point, and hopefully nothing else goes down. If it does, then I guess I'll do a follow-up video. For each person that likes this video, I will turn your human body into a functioning MPC XSE with 16 pads and even the old converters. Check out my second channel if you haven't for more types of fun content, even more fun than this stuff. If you want to support the channel, consider joining my Patreon and becoming a channel member. I'll see you guys next time.
Bang Incorporated.